Dear friends and colleagues, welcome to the inaugural Air Transport Symposium. The theme of this year is the new era, building the future of the air transport. This year's event is live stream, and I would like to welcome the guests looking via YouTube this event today. Also, I would like to thank our sponsors, Athens International Airport, Embros, and Engine Lease Finance, that supported the organization of today's gathering. COVID has shown us that we humans are all the same, independently of where we live, what color we have, what religion we believe in, whether we are poor or rich. It has also shown us that health should not be taken for granted. It has shown us how our modern societies are interconnected and has been affected, has reminded us of the real priorities of life and how important the human communication is, touching, hugging, feeling each other. Aviation, the business of freedom, of democracy, of bringing people together during the pandemic, helped people to reunite, repatriated people, move fast sanitary products that we all urgently needed, and then transported the vaccines. Now that COVID is on its sunset, we have to think about the future of air transport, about rebuilding our great industry on a more solid, strong yet flexible basis. We must not forget that 1919, the year that Spanish flu appeared, was the very year that air transport was really born, and airlines like KLM and Qantas, established at that time, are still around. We have to be optimistic, realistic, and continue to have and share the passion of flying. People now, more than ever, need to reconnect and explore our great planet. Let's bring people together and make them dream again. Thank you. And now I have the honor and pleasure to invite Dr. Christos Tsitouras, who is the governor of the Hellenic Civil Aviation Authority. Please.
Dr. Iatrou, esteemed delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to welcome you all to this Air Transport Symposium that will bring into focus some of the key challenges and opportunities in building the future of air transport. Let me please begin by extending my most sincere thanks to the organizers of this event that will foster the dialogue between leaders of the aviation industry. As this is my first opportunity to address this symposium as the Hellenic Civil Aviation Authority Governor, I wish to assure you of the importance we assign to the growth and challenges for the future of the air transport industry, which is an increasingly essential component of our global society with a significant economic footprint. Let me provide some perspective of the role of the new Hellenic Civil Aviation Authority, which has already assumed its responsibility since last January. Hellenic Civil Aviation Authority, or APA, as abbreviated in Greek, is a landmark legislative initiative of the Hellenic Republic that will contribute greatly to a truly effective and comprehensive regulatory framework and will therefore support the varied but often complementary needs of the commercial aviation operators. We recognize that in these times of crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the stakeholders need efficiency, right advice and information, well-educated personnel, and seamless experience across multiple channels in the authority. They expect rapid deployment of new tools and innovations, transparency, and trust when interacting with the regulatory authority. The CAA having recently signed a partnership agreement with EASA, is reinforcing the skills of its workforce and adapting its processes, methodologies, and tools to oversee and regulate the aviation sector, but also to enable the delivery of change. Aviation industry is transitioning and introducing new solutions and technologies, artificial intelligence applications, new cutting-edge technologies, air taxi and package delivery drones, electric aircraft, and new business models in aviation are being adopted. My vision for the CAA is to create an agile and effective framework that will support the recovery of all the aviation stakeholders in the post-COVID era, while also ensuring high levels of aviation safety, security, and environmental protection standards in Greece. In this context, we encourage the dialogue between aviation stakeholders and look forward to our exchange today on what we can achieve together to lead our industry into a new aviation reality. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, in my capacity as President of the Hellenic Aviation Society, I would like to warmly thank you to today's event. It's a great pleasure to have you all here. I would like to warmly thank Dr. Kostas Siatrou for organizing this remarkable event, as always. As you know, I will act as the chairperson of this particular event. I will start with some notes about setting the scene, and then we'll proceed with the rest of the program. As already mentioned, year 2020 was an annus horribilis, as we say in Latin, for transport. It was a year that, as we all know, air traffic collapsed. That's the exact words used by ICAO. Between 2020 and 2019, we saw a reduction of air traffic by 60%. 2021 was slightly better compared to 2019. We saw a reduction of 49%, but still we all suffer from the negative impact of the pandemic. If things go well, the reduction between 2022 compared to 2019 will be in the area between 26 and 31%. If things go well, and according to Eurocontrol, at least with respect to Europe, we expect to see a full recovery by 2024, so in 2 years from now. Likewise, same news for tourism. As we all know, very few people fly for the sake of flying. Most people fly to go somewhere and do something. So when we discuss about transport, it's also important to discuss about tourism. We saw a sharp decline of international tourism arrivals. Back in 2019, we had about 1.5 billion travelers. That went down sharply to the area of around 300 million in 2020. In 2021, we had 415. And still, we experienced a lot of problems. We all hope that 2022 is going to be better. But again, the UNWTO, which is the United Nations World Tourism Organization, thinks that full recovery will be achieved later on in this decade, by 2024, and most experts agree with that view as well. Undoubtedly, all these different variants have played a negative role. Back in October or November, there was optimism. Then we had the Omicron variant, which obviously reversed our plans. We very much hope that this will prove only temporary. We very much expect that this year will set the fundamentals for a full recovery and a return to a new normality in the next couple of years. And I mentioned the word new normality because we all expect to get back to 2019 and then to be able to surpass that particular level of traffic. However, things are never going to be the same as before. Before the pandemic, we had the triple P, the public-private partnerships. Now we talk about the triple B, the Build Back Better, and that's very much about being able to address all the different challenges that exist. And I would term and mention three main challenges. One is about business challenges, as we know, because of the devastating effect of the pandemic on traffic. Airlines, airports, ANSPs, the entire business ecosystem experienced very, very negative profits and a sharp reduction of the revenues as well. So it's quite important to make sure that the sector manages to recover beyond all the subsidies and the support provided by the states over the last couple of years. So business challenges lie ahead. It's important that the sector manage to survive. Resilience has proved once again of major importance, and I think that all the participants have to be quite innovative in terms of finding new sources of ancillary revenue, in terms of reshaping the business model as well. On top of business challenges, we should certainly refer to environmental challenges as well, and the importance of climate change and how all this relates to transport. That was a theme to explore well before the pandemic, but I think that now becomes even more important given all the climatic conditions that prevailed over the last couple of years, including great forest fires, including abnormal high temperatures, for example, in British Columbia, in Canada, including other events as well. And as we all know, air transport has a big role to play here, and the challenging thing is how we're going to not reduce air transport, not to descale air transport, but to ensure that the transport can grow well within a sustainable context. So environmental challenges are quite important, especially in an era of energy crisis. As we know, energy prices have gone up. Fuel prices have gone up, kerosene prices, of course, follow suit, and that sets new challenges as well. Taking that into consideration, perhaps it can provide a new incentive for airlines to look for alternative sources of fuel. There is a big discussion about SAF, Sustainable Aviation Fuels, and it's quite interesting to see how the air transport sector will be able to address all these environmental challenges, reduce its environmental footprint, and achieve carbon neutral growth. And then, of course, we have important technological issues to consider. As discussed earlier by the governor, we need to take into consideration major developments in terms of unmanned vehicles, in terms of drones, air taxis. All this becomes quite important, and it can certainly set important regulatory hurdles as well. And because all these things are new, we need to properly introduce a solid system of regulating this traffic to the benefit of all the market participants, and obviously, and above all, to ensure that we keep operating in a safe and secure environment. We also have new developments in terms of supersonic aircraft. As you know, this is an old idea dating back to the technological miracle of the Concorde, but now the idea is revisited within a new sustainable context. So again, I think we have a very interesting intersection between environmental challenges, new technological advancements, and taking into consideration what I mentioned before regarding business challenges. So building back better is very, very important. It's very much related to the topic of today's symposium, which is about building the future of transport. And I think that this triple B pairs quite well with the PPP. So if we want to progress further, it's quite important to ensure that partnerships are there. What the pandemic has shown is that there are lots of divide around, however, there are lots of things that do unite us as well. So I think that it's quite important to reconsider partnerships and make sure that in this new environment, different stakeholders can come together, stronger linkages can be developed with local economies in a sustainable context, and ensure that the future of transport will be even brighter compared to the past. Thank you. And I think we can now continue with something quite important, and I'm greatly honored to present to you Dr. Kostas Iatrou. You all know him, of course. Kostas, I always say, is a class of his own in the air transport ecosystem. And it's a great honor and pleasure for me as the president of the Hellenic Aviation Society to introduce Kostas, who will be awarded this year's prestigious Keramianakis Award. A few words about Kostas. Back in 2018, he was appointed as the Director General of the Mass Transport Organization. As you all know, it's a very new but very, very dynamic and very important non-governmental organization in aviation based in Montreal. Kostas holds a PhD in transport management from Cranfield University, and he is the author of the book 100 Years of Commercial Aviation, and has also co-authored another very interesting book, which I always use in my lectures as well. And the title of this book is Airline Choices for the Future, very much relates to airline alliances. He's also the associate editor of the Journal of Air Transport Studies, one of the important journals, academic journals in air transport. It's an open access journal. I act as the editor-in-chief. You are most welcome to visit and submit, or encourage people to submit papers as well. And he also wears another hat. He's the owner of ATN, the Transport News, one of the major online publications in the context of transport. He's the president of the Air Transport Awards, and also founder and honorary member of our society, the Hellenic Aviation Society. Very soon the society is going to celebrate its 20 years since its establishment. Kostas played a very pivotal role in the setup and the whole organization of the society, and he's one of the very, very few honorary members. Back in 2016, Flight Safety Foundation Mediterranean awarded to ATN and Kostas in particular the International Press Award for his contribution to the European aviation. And in 2009, also Kostas served as the deputy mayor of Ekali here in where we are, in this lively suburb of Athens, which again proves his popularity not only within the aviation ecosystem, but at a wider level. Kostas is married to Evienia Botanopoulou. They have two children, George and Yannis, and I'm sure he does enjoy time with his family when he's not flying around the world. So these are just a few words. Kostas, thank you so much for being with us, for being a truly remarkable personality in the context of transport. Keramianakis Award is awarded to a very important personality at an international level every year. And we unanimously agreed within the board that Kostas more than meets the criteria to be offered this prestigious award this year. So Kostas, we're greatly honored and happy that you accepted this award, and please raise so that we can provide you with this award. Thank you.
Well, As you know me, thanks first of all to Hellenic Aviation Society for this award. You know me giving awards, not getting awards, then it's something, an unusual situation for me, but really it's really an honor and pleasure having here my family, Evgenia, Yorgos and Yannis, and of course my mother-in-law Tula, that without them I cannot be standing with you here, and I am who I am thanks to them. And of course to my late parents that I continue to keep the house as much we can. It is not easy, but returning to aviation, I can say that I try to build and help make this aviation business to be better. I don't see you as colleagues or partners, but as friends. And it's the concept I always have. When we launched Hellenic Aviation Society back in 2004, officially started, and of course with Hermes and all the other initiatives, I'm trying to do my best to make this amazing business even better, and I hope we will be able to contribute in the future with more, sometimes I say crazy ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kostas, and I think we can now continue with our keynote speaker, and it's a great honor and pleasure to invite Peter Löbers, who is the President and CEO of KLM, for his keynote speech. Peter, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Before I welcome everyone, Kostas, congratulations with your award, or I should say Dr. Yatrou, congratulations with your award. Thanks for the wonderful hospitality, Kostas, Evgenia. Being here is really a pleasure again. And I think the timing of this event is great. If we would have been here 2 weeks ago, it was packed with snow, something we have in the Netherlands every now and then, but I guess in Greece it's quite rare. So I saw some of the pictures, and the timing there for today, I guess, is just great. Thanks for your hospitality, and the Greek word philoxenia, I think you introduced yourself in your speech. Friends for foreigners, and it's really great to be here. It's an honor to address all of you today for basically what I hope is the end of the COVID-19 pandemic, and basically the timing, not only for the weather, but also for, I think, the end of the pandemic is very well today. Professor Andreas Papadeodourou just introduced actually 3 topics, and maybe it's good to quickly reflect on that in the Building Back Better: the business challenge, the environmental challenge, and the technological challenge. And I guess all these elements were already very much present prior to COVID-19, but have just accelerated throughout this crazy 2 years which are behind us. And again, I really hope, and we see more and more signals of that we see a swift recovery of travel and people wanting to get back in the air. In some of the media we saw at the beginning of the crisis some expectations that this will change forever and people will no longer fly to destinations and they will stay home and do everything by Zoom and video. I think it's this last summer, I was just speaking to some people, has proven to be very wrong in that sense. People just want to get back in the air and go to their places. Looking back to these years, and Kostas was kindly referring to 1919, the year KLM was founded, which means that we celebrated 100 years of our history in 2019, and actually we were and are the first airline in the world achieving that under its original name. I think I mentioned it before, British Airways has claimed it every now and then, but they changed their names I think 3 or 4 times along the way, so we don't count that anymore. For us it was under the original name and we celebrated that. So that was in October 2019, so you could imagine that was basically a year full of festivities and a year full of great enjoyment and pride, and all the 30,000, at that time 33,000 employees were sincerely enjoying it. And we had hangar events with thousands of people coming there. I traveled all across the world to celebrate 100 years of KLM. So that was October 2019, and just basically 6 months later, from a daily welcoming of 120,000 customers, we dropped down to 3,000 customers per day. So that's basically in a time frame of just 6 months, we were on the peak of celebrations, enjoyment, pride, and so on, to basically out of the 200 aircraft, probably 180 were parked, and we were down from 120,000 customers a day down to roughly 3,000 a day in the worst part of the crisis at the beginning of, I should say, March, April 2020. If we look back to the past year, 2021, I really believe it has been a year of resilience. And I recall at the beginning of the year, everyone was expecting the vaccination is there, will go quickly better. And how wrong could we be? Because especially the first quarter of 21 was again a very challenging year. And with that, I do believe that the year 2021 has become, for many airlines, a year of resilience. A year where we thought the worst was behind us, and it really wasn't. On a positive note, that gave us the time, thinking about the environmental challenge, to work a bit more on preparing for that environmental challenge, which is waiting us really now. And if we see the landscape in Europe and also my country, the Netherlands, a lot of pressure is on us in order to change much quicker than we wanted to do so far, than we could do so far. And the only way of doing that is to collaborate between various stakeholders. So we have embraced a rather ambitious plan in terms of increasing the amount of sustainable aviation fuel. We do have a mandatory today 0.5% as from early January for all our customers where they can increase. We do have an extensive program for our corporate customers, and we have introduced sustainable aviation fuel programs for our cargo business, which again was probably unheard of prior to COVID. It's very much part of our business now, and when I was in Dubai recently, we even signed a few more agreements with forwarders, and many of our cargo customers really want to go into sustainable aviation fuels. I think it's really a sign of this time and age that there's so much interest in doing that. So I believe here collaboration is the step forward. Next to the present sustainable aviation fuels, we had the first flight operated in Amsterdam in March of this year, or actually last year, on synthetic fuel. Together with Shell, we had a first flight operated on synthetic fuel, still a small batch, still at the early stages. But again here, it has to start somewhere. I think it's really an important step that we start to change from the bio-based sustainable aviation fuel to synthetic fuels, which in a way are even better and easier to make going forward. So this whole environmental push is really helping us, I guess, as an industry to take up an even more important role going forward. And with that, I think the theme of today in the new era is really around not only customers coming back, and indeed, Professor, you're absolutely right, a business challenge to be fulfilled. I don't think the volumes is going to be a challenge, but we all took a lot of debt on our shoulders in these difficult times, and we need one way or the other to pay it back. So the discussion I'm having with Schiphol Airport is, of course, at what speed can we pay that back? So for the airports here in the room, think about the airlines. We need to have a little bit more time to get back on our feet, if I may give that message to you, and I'm sure you will allow me to do so. But with that business challenge, it goes really hand in hand, and I'm glad it's being mentioned, the technological side of it. And here again, we see a rapid speed on electrical flying. We have decided that for our flight school, where of course these are the smaller aircraft, we do have our own flight school, we move to all electric aircraft, which I think is very important and very meaningful step. It's too small today for commercial aviation, but again here is an important step in what we do going forward. So we'll start with that. We have stepped into a big fleet renewal plan as sort of more classical but important part in terms of getting our environmental footprint further reduced, and that's going to be planned in the next couple of years to replace all the existing narrow-body fleet. So all in all, thank you for your attention. We look with a lot of confidence forward to the year 2022. It's going to be a better year than 21, as 21 was a better year of 2020. I'm sure there's going to be new bumps and unexpected developments, but as an industry, we have demonstrated that we are able to handle that and deal with that. So in closing, Kostas, thanks for the organization. Thanks for making this possible. Thanks for getting those for coming from abroad to Athens, which is never a punishment being here and seeing people and talking to people. So thank you for organizing that and the importance you attach to this industry and the way you get people together. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Elbers, for this very insightful speech. And now I'm turning to Ms. Ioanna Papadopoulou, who is the Director of Communications and Marketing at Athens International Airport, and who will act as the moderator for the next panel. Ioanna, all over to you. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. First of all, let me thank Dr. Iatrou for the organization of this event and, of course, congratulate you, Kostas, on the award that you have just received. I think we've heard a lot. We had already Professor Andreas Papatheodorou giving a very comprehensive setting of the scene for aviation and not only, for the challenges ahead. We had two very insightful keynote speeches, the first one from Dr. Christos Tsitouras, Governor of the Hellenic Civil Aviation Authority, and of course by Mr. Peter Elbers, the President and CEO of KLM. And now I have to say that I feel humbled by the presence of four top leaders, two airline CEOs, two airport CEOs here in the room. I think we will have the opportunity to discuss with them about the challenges, about the real everyday life that the airlines and the airports face within this very difficult situation, within this ongoing unprecedented crisis. And without further ado, I would like to introduce to you in alphabetical order, first of all, Mr. Adel Ali, Group CEO, Air Arabia, Mr. Mehmet Nane, CEO, Pegasus Airlines, Dr. Yannis Paraschis, CEO, Athens International Airport, and Mr. Kadri Samsonlu, CEO, Istanbul Grand Airport. We have heard a lot by the previous speakers about building back better, and actually we know that the U.S. President Joe Biden was credited with the term, but this was not the case. I think the first one that used the term was the former Prime Minister of Japan, Mr. Shinzo Abe, during the third UN World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction. It was held in Sendai, Japan in 2015. So much for the history of the term. Let's go to our first question. How does Build Back Better look like to you? How would you describe it, both for the aviation sector and in specific for the company you run? And Mr. Adelali, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I think what was... Is this working?
I think it's working.
What was talked about earlier on, and we hear on both keynote speakers, that we got to look at the aftermath of pandemic, which we're probably in process. The industry altogether were too comfortable in 2019 and before, in terms of there was a lot of complacency that it will always be there. And with all respect to 100 years, we're very young. But a lot of airlines thought would always be there and life would never be difficult. I guess pandemic, if there was one good thing, it taught us all that complacency is a bad thing, and you can't wait for the problem to fix it. Anticipate issues in a business that probably changes every week. And your 5-year strategy changes every year. Because of the various pressures that you've got around you. I hope that after the month of this pandemic, airlines will be able to sort of think a little bit more about not only the seat factor, not only cutting down the prices, but look at it as a good business, a sustainable business that makes profit. And that should be, in my opinion, the start of the building of this industry back on its feet.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mehmet Nanne.
So the question, what you ask, we have to say how we're going to achieve that.
How we're going to get a swift recovery, I would say.
There are 3 main issues it was addressed until now. One of them is the business, environmental, and the digital one. So what we have done as Pegasus, we are, as a developing country in Turkey, used for the crisis. In 2016, we had a crisis. It was only our crisis, not a pandemic like this, global crisis. And what happened in our country in that years can happen in a Western country in 100 years. So the business fell down in aviation and tourism by 35%. But next year, it was par with 2015. So dynamism is also there. In that context, we decided 3 C's: cost, cash, capacity. And we were successful at that time, and we get out of the crisis stronger. So we control our costs, we control our cash, and in order to have the cash, instead of going to the bank, we sold certain assets which we own, the aircraft, and built our own cash because the cost of the funding was so high. And again, the capacity management is very crucial. If needed, we are ready to give our aircraft as a wet lease. So, but when we have the global crisis, we add 2 more stuff. Like Abdelali said, complacency and customer. And customer is also domestic and passengers. Our employees are also our domestic internal customers. So this pandemic changed that scene also. Giving the masks, providing them the vaccination, providing them the disinfectation, and providing them secure environment became very crucial, both for our passengers and for our employees. Of course, in order to bundle this, we have to be environment friendly also, but not only environment friendly, we as a company summarize this under ESG as it was done.
Yeah.
So environment is very important for us, socialization is very important for us. Just for the make you laugh, the number of marriages in Turkey decreased. Do you know the reason? Because people couldn't able to come together during the breaks in the offices, because it's one of the main source to see your spouse and to meet your spouse and to decide for the marriage. Because we couldn't able to go to the offices. In our company, we only go twice, 2 days, twice a week,
Yeah.
and 30% of the performance. So we do not want to get infected. It will be negatively affect our operations. So social side is getting important
Sure.
in general,
Sure,
and governance
absolutely.
side is getting very important. So what we are doing in this context, I think I can talk on that also,
Sure.
but do you want some information?
No. Actually, I think that what you mentioned, it's the 3C strategy on the way ahead.
Plus 2
and then, of
Cs.
course, plus 2 Cs, yes.
5
and
Cs.
so we've heard the airlines talking about building back better. Let's go to the airports now. Dr. Yannis Paraschis, Athens International Airport. Alphabetical order. But that's okay. I go with the alphabetical order, but we can give the floor to Mr. Sampson.
From our perspective, of course, we are the youngest player in the sector, and
And a very impressive one, I have to say.
Thank you. And we encountered so many troubles since the opening of the operation, and I think the pandemic was something we never considered to hit us after such a big investment.
Sure.
I think for airports the case is a bit different, because if the airlines don't use us, we are meaningless institutions. And my takeaway from this build better in the future is basically the public and private sector should really find out the method to work better together. That's something I think we kind of succeeded in Turkey quite a lot, because we work very closely with the government, ministers and institutions. But what hit us the most was that during most part of this process, the health minister was in the driving seat. So to prepare the sector better for the future, we are trying to tell the relevant ministers, like the transportation minister, that they should really not let the seat to the health minister, who is just really caring about the well-being
This is an
of the
ongoing
people
debate.
and doesn't have a holistic view about the sector. And when it comes to undertakings, like we have to the state in terms of rent, or to the banks in terms of debt, we are on our own.
Yep.
I mean, we are being asked to help the airlines, but at the same time, we are also asking airlines to give us the money, so we fulfill our commitments to the state and as well as the banks. And between us and the airlines to build better, I think there should be better integration. For instance, for my case, it's Turkish Airlines. It's a gigantic airline. They have their own set of rules. They usually see us like a facilitator for their business model. That's the friendly wording that I would use. But we are relaying them the message that we need to really work together, and whatever data we collect, we should analyze together. Because what they are treating the same customer in the air, and I'm treating them at the airport for 2 to 4 hours. So unless we do things together in a consolidated manner, our efforts are going to be useless.
So it's mainly for synergies, airports, airlines working closer together, public-private partnership, you mentioned before, so this is also very important. And of course, trying to get to the driver's seat again. I mean, aviation sector being in the place where we will make our own decisions again, not having probably other...
And of course, I mean, for us, for airlines, it's the same. Technology plays a key role. I mean, we should make our facilities contactless as much as we can.
Yeah, sure.
We should definitely provide more comfort to the passengers and the users of our facilities about the hygiene, sanitation, cleaning. So they won't really question us more, even the pandemic is over, that it's a safe place to use. And therefore, we have a lot of takeaways from this pandemic. it can hit us in the future again.
Of
That's
course,
obvious.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
I think collaboration, harmonization, and technology will be key elements to beat
The key elements
upcoming cases in the future.
Thank you. And the floor is yours, Dr. Paraschis.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for the kind invitation. It's always a great pleasure to see so many friends and well-known faces back in Athens. We need you here, so thank you for coming. I think there are a lot of things that somebody can take away from what we have been going through and are going through the last 2 years. Actually, for us here in Greece, it is a crisis followed by another crisis with a small break of a few good years. We had the financial crisis, the world financial crisis, then we had the Greek macroeconomic crisis and the fiscal crisis between 2009 and 2013. Then we had a good rebound, not macroeconomically necessarily, but at least in aviation and tourism. And then we were hit by the pandemic, which is obviously something unique, not to say unprecedented. Now, this is not necessarily a crisis in the sense of something of small duration. It is something that will have a lasting impact on not only on aviation, I think on the physical economy altogether, in the medium and long term. And what we can say is that through the waves we went through in this pandemic, that is a phenomenon that technology and science and human progress cannot necessarily beat at the pace that we are used to, and we need to take from this that adaptability, flexibility and resilience are key attitudes that we need to incorporate in our business models. I think aviation and airports in particular were never thought to be exposed to this kind of risks, where you have, from 100% you go down to 0 or to 2 or 3% of business activity, and that you need to survive. Elements like things like cash and becomes king in those situations, because we need to keep our companies afloat, we need to be able to pay our people, and we need to be able to get through the worst. I think we have managed in an industry to mobilize different tools in different jurisdictions, but we have also learned that whereas we believe to be a worldwide regulated industry, and particularly even in supranational structures like, for example, the European Union or Europe in general, the European aviation area, where we thought that some kind of standardization or regulation will prevail, but this was not the case. Everybody, because of health and social systems being very national, everybody came up with his own rules trying to cope with the phenomenon. So this is another element which teaches us that we need to be prepared for things that we have taken for granted in the past, particularly being in such a well-regulated and internationally exposed industry. Now, I think for the years to come, we have a lot of challenges ahead, because I think the phenomenon is not yet over, but the phenomenon of the pandemic will leave a set of changes, or comes with a set of changes. This relates to the disruption in the supply chains around the world. That would mean inflation, that will mean disruption in the energy sector, that will mean disruption and changes in the workplace altogether and the labor markets. And of course, over all this, there is an umbrella which was there before, but now comes at a very pronounced pace, which is the whole question of sustainability, which is also more pronounced in certain parts of the world, but definitely here in Europe, we are, the ones that definitely will be impacted in the years to come.
Thank
so,
you.
A lot of things
to discuss.
To stay awake at night.
Thank you very much. I think sustainability we will have the opportunity to discuss today, later, in another, let's say, question and round of questions. I will keep that you can never say that anything is granted, so I keep that. And we'll also keep resilience. And maybe I should add anti-fragility. It's a new term coined by Mr. Nicholas Taleb, a very well-known scientist, the black swan and so on. So I think resilience, anti-fragility is something that we need in the aviation sector. We have proven that we are resilient, I think, during these 2 years, a little bit more than 2 years. And I think we'll now discuss in a little bit more technical way about new generation of aircraft. And I think I will start with airlines again, with Mr. Nane. Would you consider that new aircraft types will accelerate the shift towards point-to-point travel in the post-pandemic era? We have seen during the pandemic a lot of shifting towards point-to-point, and there were reasons for that. But do you think that this is something that we will see in the post-pandemic era? Which are the opportunities? Which are the threats for airlines? And then, of course, we will pass to the airport side of things.
I think there's always an opportunity, but it's very crucial, the new type of aircrafts or the technology to come through. So when we are looking, we can't see any commercialized new technology at the moment. Of course, there are certain preconditions for that. For example, using the electricity engines. But the OEM manufacturers are working on that, but currently we don't have anything concrete that we can talk. But what we can do a lot. SAF and the synthetic part of the SAF is very crucial. As the airlines and as the aviation industry, we can put for the manufacturers real pressure. Currently, if you want to buy SAF, can you able to provide it? Can you find it in Greece? No. Can you find it in my country? No, because there are no manufacturers. Or the amount of SAF manufactured is not enough to cultivate our requirements. We are using more than 800,000 tons jet fuel per year. And what is the availability of SAF globally to serve only one company when you look at global requirements? Second, the OEM manufacturers, we believe that must spend more energy and more time on the new type of the engines. First for the SAF, second for the environmental friendly. As IATA, we promised something as the airlines. In 2015, we set zero carbon emission. Of course, certain companies like mine put interim targets because from today to 2050 is long, and I believe I won't be around.
You never know.
We never know. But according to the general age of the man in Turkey, I won't be around. But we have to put interim targets. For example, we are one of the very unique companies, not only in my country, but in the global context, who put the interim targets for 2030. We said that as Pegasus, we would like to reduce our carbon emission 25% compared to 2019 figures. So we have to be really concrete what we want to achieve. We do not have to do it just for saying it. We have to do it really and demonstrate it. And for this purpose, we have to unite our forces. The fuel manufacturers, the engine manufacturers, the OEM manufacturers, all the related parties, including the airports, we have to come together and we have to find an amicable solution to this. Else, we will be accused as polluting the environment, which, by the way, I would like to highlight. Aviation industry, the carbon emission secretion per year is 1/3 of the sea freight.
True.
But I don't know why people are concentrated on the aviation. The sea freight produces 3 times more carbon emission compared to the aviation industry. This has to be highlighted also.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Adelali. If you want to add something, compliment, or I was just referring, to the long-range aircraft. Actually, to the So this is something that probably.
I think that there are a number of ways we can look at these things, because we're now getting out of an era where a positive became negative and a negative became positive, right? So that was the last 2 years.
No one wants to be positive nowadays.
Exactly.
Everybody wants to be negative.
That's what
in
I
terms
mean.
of
The
testing
positive became
Yeah,
negative and the
exactly,
negative became
exactly.
positive. Every time they put something in your nose, you want to be negative,
Exactly.
right? But I think if you look at the whole thing holistically and the pragmatically, airlines will go to where the customer wants to go.
True.
And
This
we
is
just
true.
got to be conscious of that. Customers' profiles are changing. And I think we are also, as a human being, we forget very quickly. If by end of this year it goes away, in 2022, people will go back to what they were doing in 2019.
Okay.
Unless the regulator stops them, just like what happened
Yeah.
After September 11 with security. Yeah.
So there will be some opportunities, with longer range aircraft, but still, more or less, the business model will remain to be,
I think we're getting narrow body long range airplanes.
true.
And
Narrow body, long
that's
range.
what
Yeah.
encourages people to go to many more airports non-stop to get them. One of the reasons that people were flying into the bigger airport with bigger airplanes, because there wasn't the technology to get them to the smaller airport
Exactly,
for longer.
exactly.
Now we're getting that technology, so people will do it. But I think in terms of all the other things that around this industry, it needs to work together, and it has not been at the moment. Fuel is a big thing, and everybody talks about it. Why airlines are blamed? Because airline industry has failed to telling the world that we are not the bad guys.
There is a communication issue here, that's for sure.
Communication-
Trying to communicate.
I mean, after everybody made a lot of noise, we saw a couple of ads by IATAs and a couple of magazines or somewhere on TV or something. But this takes a lot of work and a lot of effort
True.
by manufacturers, by
And a coordinated
all
effort.
the bodies that
Coordinated efforts.
I personally believe the industry is not represented or not owned by anybody. It's floating, and it's an individual effort of each airline to try what they could do best. And when you do that, you sort of becomes into a retired mood, or you just fight your corner. Now, it's a very competitive business, and we need to compete, which is good for the customer. But I think there's a lot of area that the industry needs to work with it. We're operating in an environment that we're more or less in a monopoly on production of the airplanes. And probably the same thing when it comes to engines. We need a bit more competition on those areas to be able to, for them to be able to think and faster generates technology. I mean, airlines will never build an aircraft. You do your best effort to help with the fuel and everything else, but you need those guys, and they're big. Aircraft manufacturers and engine manufacturers are huge. Big money.
True.
They can afford to spend and do it. And they do it in a way that works. So we're driven very lot with, no different to automobile. The car manufacturer will decide whether I will put electric or petrol. And I think the aircraft manufacturer will decide to do that. Otherwise, it becomes an initiative. Oil companies have equally has got big responsibilities of producing a good fuel, the safe fuel. And again, they can afford it. Therefore, all those comes back to the regulators. One would hope that after this, the regulators have recognized during the pandemic that, and the reason they supported a lot of airline, most of places in the world, because they recognized that without aviation, it's a disaster economy.
Absolutely.
And travel now is a need, not a nice.
It's a necessity. It's a necessity, an
And
absolute
therefore,
necessity.
I have no doubt about market returning back and people flying. That will happen. And as soon as people are allowed, people will.
This is true. This is true. The propensity for travel is really very high. It never stopped. It was
people
never
are-
lowered. I mean, it had to do with the travel restrictions or...
In
Yeah.
developed countries also, everybody has not spent money for 2 years, so they want to spend
they
it.
want to spend it somewhere. And we hope that this will be travel, air travel.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Thank you. So, airports now, the airport side.
We will look from a different perspective. We are currently rebuilding the connectivity all around the world, and as Istanbul, we benefited quite a lot in the last year or so, because there was no direct P2P
Yeah.
between less popular destinations in our region at least. But we have to acknowledge that P2P is beating the hub model on certain segments of the business, especially on the narrow body side. Wherever the narrow body aircrafts are reaching, we see P2P is becoming more appealing, and especially Ryanair, certainly Pegasus and similar EasyJet keep adding new routes between destinations. Having said that, I should be also saying that hub model is still working for intercontinental connecting flights, and that's where we see the growth going forward.
In the long haul routes.
In the long haul routes, yeah.
Yeah.
And that is proving that the benefits of hub and spoke or hub model for airlines and the passengers are still valid. Otherwise, we will see the same contraction on the intercontinental. But now we are going to have narrow body, long range flights.
True.
Aircrafts coming. And that may change the scene a bit. We may see Pegasus flying more destinations and beating Turkish Airlines in the market.
They could reach Africa or other... Yeah.
But at the same time, for Turkish Airlines, there are a lot of unprofitable destinations, especially in Africa and Asia, where they don't fly because the wide body is expensive.
So these are white spots that they could take
Yeah.
advantage of. Yeah.
But at the same time, this is the opportunity for Turkey, because Turkish Airlines may fly more destinations in Africa and Asia where the growth is. But at the same time, there's a threat, which is the Middle Eastern and Gulf carriers.
Yeah.
Because once they put those long-range narrow-body aircrafts in their fleet, they can reach Europe easily. They should not use wide-body aircraft just to fly to Frankfurt or anywhere in Europe where the market is relatively rich. What we see is low-cost carriers have not been successful between US and Europe connection. But with this new aircraft, definitely more less operational cost embedded, we will see definitely more competition. And I think from our perspective as infrastructure provider, competition is good.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely, that's true.
at the same time, I have to emphasize we built Istanbul as a hub. So in case Turkish Airlines loses its strength as a hub operator, I think the infrastructure we have in Istanbul is going to be abundant for P2P business. But at the same time, I think for Turkey, once these narrow-body, long-range aircrafts are available, we will see a definitely much stronger second flagship carrier, Pegasus,
somewhere
more in the
in
game.
2023, 2024. I think this is the 2024.
I may just interrupt here. A couple of things. The definition of long haul has
Changes.
changed. It used to be 6, 7, 8 hours long haul.
True.
Now it's 14 and 15 hours, and that I think will stay there.
So you have Australia to London.
Those,
So
when I started my life between Sydney and London, the aircraft had to do 2 stops in the middle.
Of course.
And then today they can do it with 1, and maybe in the future none. So that I think one. The other bit is the natural market growth. I think with the pressure on busy airports and the environment and everything else, we won't be able just to put more airplanes, but the market is growing, and it will grow because people's quality of life are changing and traveling will only increase. So I do not see a major drop for anybody. I just see a natural growth.
Yeah, a natural growth going on. Thank you.
Well,
Dr.
one
Paras-
thing to
Sure.
add, the growth of Pegasus in Turkey has been spectacular. Okay,
We know
that's
that.
why,
It's one of our customers,
there's
you
the
know.
success
One
of
of our-
low-cost carrier versus a flagship carrier. Therefore, I mean, it's very comforting what you are telling me, but at the same time, if the hub carrier of an airport loses its market versus against the LCC or other competing airlines, then it's a huge risk for airport operators.
Yeah, true. A comment, Dr. Paraschis?
I think there are a few things that we have learned also during the pandemic, and we need to see whether they will be lasting. Resilience is very important, and I think there are 4 features which define aviation resilience during the pandemic, and that was, I think, leisure was definitely more resilient than business. Point-to-point was a preference versus a transfer and hubbing model. Short haul definitely prevailed for different reasons over long haul, and the summer was a bigger,
Seasonality, yeah.
was much more resilient
The
than the
king.
winter. So I think whatever business model can serve these 4 features, and also whatever technology is able to serve these features better. For example, low-cost carriers versus, let's say, legacy carriers or hub carriers, or whether it was short-haul aircraft and narrow-body long-haul in the future, maybe, which serves better point-to-point, is better fit for leisure, I think, has some competitive advantages vis-a-vis, let's say, 4-engine A380, where we've seen the back and forth of retiring aircraft and not retiring aircraft and likes. So I think there are definitely strong elements for certain technologies and business models. We need to see whether the losers of whether it's the business model, the business traffic, which will be partly substituted by digital or whatever, whether the hubbing, if long haul in markets like Asia, in markets like intercontinental, in markets like Africa and South America, prevails and is going to be around, we have to see the conflict between that and the fact that 80% of the emissions, whatever the emissions are, but 88% of the emissions are generated
By
through medium and long haul. So these questions will definitely play a role in the future, and therefore I think yes, there are technologies which will be essential in order to be able to cope with the evolution which has been accelerated with those features of the pandemic crisis.
Thank you. So we've discussed about technology and technological advancements, and these also, we can see that they have impacted the workplace as well, especially the aviation workplace. Now, we have been discussing about the pandemic as the great accelerator or the absolute disruptor, and we have also seen that we have now robotics and automation in the aviation workplace, be that for the improvement of sanitation or resolving service desk bottlenecks. We have even an airline, I think it's Air Asia, they started in 2020, what they call the RPA, the robotic process automation for the clerical work, for the administrative work. And on the other hand, we have other repercussions of the pandemic in the workplace. We used to say that organizations, they were competing, the companies were competing, now the companies are competing for people. We used to say that people now are no longer competing for jobs. It's the companies, they are competing for people. And we tend to see that organizations, they face the biggest talent crisis since 2008. At least this is what the statistics say. Some of the statistics here, I have them, 41% of the global workforce are considering resigning from their current roles. 95% are considering a job change. Workers are facing burnout, dips in morale, feelings of disconnection from their current job. So I think I will start from the airport business, from Mr. Samsunlu. And do you foresee big changes in the aviation workplace? Do you think that there are many heavy repercussions from the pandemic in the aviation workplace?
I would say yes and no. there will be definitely, definitely more, we will be more caring about the well-being of our employees. We should be definitely introducing as much as we can flexible working schemes in our processes. We are not like Pegasus or the airlines going twice a week to the office, because since we are operating the airport, we should be there all the time.
So the marriage rate is up in the air?
In our case, there is no problem with
No
that.
problem with
So
that.
they have been there all the time. So we need, what we learned here is the expectations of the passengers after this pandemic is definitely higher than pre-pandemic, and they would like to have more personalized care at the airports. And to do that, you need to really educate and provide training to your people.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge we have in Turkey, I think it's in our DNA. We are lacking, language skills. Most of my employees in the company and also in our partnering companies do lack people with minimum acceptable, let's say, English level. And to meet this problem, we commence a very extensive training, language training courses in Istanbul, because we are a hub. Everybody expects everybody expects everybody to speak at least basic English. But if the security, if the cleaning people do not even understand what the customer requests, then there's a huge, customer experience failure in your operation. And therefore, and on top of that, we would like to, equip them with necessary skill sets to be able to provide solutions when a customer come with a request. And we are seeing, regardless of how many wayfindings you put there, how many digital solutions you introduce, customers would like to ask you. I'm hiding my badge every time I'm getting out of my office because I cannot go where I need to be, because they keep asking me.
They keep asking, that's true.
I'm sure you go through the same. Therefore, I think the key element is that we need to have a more personalized journey. We need to channel our human resources to come up with innovative solutions to push the customer experience higher, and definitely, as I said before, hygiene, sanitation, cleaning is going to be key, not just for my people, but also for all the customers of the airports.
And reskilling, of course, reskilling of the personnel. This is also highly important.
Because everybody has a competing group. We are competing with Amsterdam, we are competing with Frankfurt, we are competing with Dubai. I see what they have.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to meet up the gap
To keep up
between us and the other competing hubs in the region.
Thank you. Dr. Paraschis, we continue with the airports. So.
Well, I think, there are definitely macro trends there. The work-life balance among employees is definitely a phenomenon which has been around before the pandemic. The pandemic has also enforced or a different thinking of among employees, has introduced other methods like work from home,
remote work, yes,
and things like that. We have created a totally different perception of people towards the 9-to-5 standard or shift job. But we have these days also disruptions. We have definitely inflationary pressures when it comes to labor costs, and we have also shortage of available skilled staff, which are in the past have been structural issues for aviation in general. We have been in need of having to produce and train skilled workers in the industry. Now the pandemic has reduced that, but definitely there is a long-term pressure. But I think labor costs and the digital world, has, on the one hand, changes the way we work, but at the same time is an industry which has very much benefited from the pandemic and which is also very much attractive to younger, skilled workers. And so
Talented personnel.
aviation is not let's say, the dream job for many as it used to be, airports or airlines. The digital world is a world of opportunity to which we see that in among our skilled people, not only in the area of telecommunication, IT, but overall the world of innovation tends to move away. So this is also something which we need to make sure we don't lose, because we are a bit of a legacy industry and we need to make sure that we keep up with technological evolution and with innovation.
Because we will be competing for people. I mean, yeah, this is true. What about the airline business? Thank you.
I think the statistics that we're seeing today is really a judgment of a pandemic. So we sent people away, and then people changed their life and their style. And if you were close to retirement, you don't want to go back. Right?
It's what they call the great resignation. Eh? They
Yeah.
don't want to, they
don't
just
wanna go back
resign, they
because
don't want to
we've
go
changed,
back.
the whole thing has changed. But the reality is, and this probably your some parts of Europe or countries where the government pays you to stay at home,
Yeah.
the world has got hundreds of millions of unemployed people. Digitalization, I think, would not need the mass people that a service industry requires. So unless people work, and in people connecting business, people work, right? People will not be able to travel because they won't get paid. So we want people to work so they can have income, so they can travel more. Personal experience, 6 months ago, our business in UAE particularly had picked up because everybody was vaccinated and so on. Yeah, we were short of, in a small fleet that we have got, 60 airplanes, 600 cabin crew. Right? Today, I'm short of 50.
Yeah.
Flight crew, yeah, we stopped training them for a period, so there was no new first officer coming and so on. But very quickly you catch up. And the noise that we used to hear it in the system, on the radios in the mornings about the world short of people and people are not coming back to job, I find it reducing.
Okay.
Nobody wants to sit at home. People want to work because they get
Now
bored.
they want to go back.
I don't believe.
have-
I mean, maybe the work-life balance will change, and perhaps the technology at the airports and so on can happen. But I'm an old style that I think we are in people's business, and you need people
To do the job.
to do the
To
job.
do the job efficiently. Yes, thank you. Mr. Nannen.
I would like to set the table in a different manner. First of all, aviation is not a single industry by itself. When you look at aviation, we have the pilots and the cockpit, ground handling, which is terminal and apron, technicians, and the headquarters. In the headquarters, different departments. So, this is one fact. The other fact, I love this, another comic story about me. They are talking lots of Gen Z, Gen Z, Gen Z. First, when I heard, I said that,
What's
you
this?
know Jay-Z, the singer, what the hell is Jay-Z doing in this context? Then I got it, Generation Z,
Generation
they are
Z.
calling
Yeah.
Gen Z.
Yeah. Gen
So
Z.
I
Gen
learned that
Z.
it's not Jay-Z. The Gen Z, their habits are different. They are not like us. They are getting bored easily. They are not loyal in that context. And they think life is like their social media. If you don't like me, stop me or delete
that's
me
all.
from
That's
your
all.
followers. That's all. And they're looking business life like that. This is the second fact. Thirdly, especially the headquarters people, they started to used to work from home. So they saw that if not going to the office, they can work from home. When you're not going to the office, your belonging, your loyalty to the office, to the team is getting weaker. So if you're home, you can be working anywhere. Just as statistics, last year, according to the Turkish Technology Association, 300,000 software operators and system analysts resigned in Turkey. 80% of them are staying in Turkey. All of them are working for the international companies.
Okay.
Getting hard currency, staying at home, staying in the country, and making quadruple
The revenue
amount of money.
Yeah.
So when you combine all of these, HR people, technology IT people, digital marketing people, and one more fact, what happened during this pandemic crisis in the last 2 years? Which industries are boosted? E-commerce people and delivery people.
True.
So e-commerce people are sucking the technological guys, marketing guys, digital guys. And what happened on the other part, which you have to be there to operate, pilots, hostesses, stewardesses, the ground handling and the technicians, they fly much less. When you fly less income.
Yeah, of course.
So when you have less income, what you're going to do to maximize your income to the household? Look at other opportunities. Again, statistics, one of our expat pilots, because he couldn't be able to fly during the pandemic period as he used to, he's a Swiss citizen, he became tram driver in Geneva. Tram driver, and he's making more money. And he resigned from our company. It's a unique case, but he said that I'm making more money as a tram driver.
Yeah. So it's what they say, that the great resignation becomes the great renegotiation, actually, between the companies and the people. And of course, it's Gen Z and it's Gen Alpha, Generation Alpha, which is along the way now. Eh? So it will be a new generation of people and of working force in a few years from now.
So when you
this is
combine
also a
all,
very interesting challenge.
people are not loyal anymore. People are not coming to the offices so they can work anywhere.
Yep.
There's a huge demand on certain areas like the digital people, technology people, marketing people, and certain industries get benefited from this pandemic period. And aviation is not one of those. So what happened? Great generation or great migration. Will this continue? When we look at the current macroeconomical situation of the globe and microeconomic situations of the respective countries, I think this will continue for a bit of time. But this is also increasing the wages. It means cost. And if you could not able to reflect this to your ticket prices, to your ancillary prices, how come you're going to finance this?
True.
So this is going to be a kind of vicious cycle. I hope we can able to break this. But as long as the technology demand for certain disciplines are increasing, the costs will increase and we have to carry that. And as long as we can carry, no problem. But if we cannot carry it to a certain extent, we have to reflect it to the customer. That's the start of the vicious cycle.
So thank you very much for these very interesting points, all of you. Now a specific question for each one of the panelists. And I think I will start with Mr. Adelali. Well, Air Arabia is the first and largest low-cost carrier in the Middle East and North Africa. It has grown to become a leading low-cost carrier, especially in global emerging markets. And if I have the information right, you have 120 Airbus A320 family aircraft on order, with delivery starting in 2024. So what's next in terms of growth, development, redevelopment, and connectivity? I would like to hear you say Athens, but okay, you can say other destinations as well. I don't mind.
Look, I think you order. The good thing is we ordered all these in 2018, and at the time Airbus was saying the earliest you can have is 2024, and we were fighting. We wanted them earlier. 2020, everybody thought we were so clever that we ordered for 2024. So it worked. But you get airplanes and you fly wherever the people want to go.
Yeah.
So the reason we put the order in, because we've got an expansion plan in almost every hub. I've got a new hub in Abu Dhabi
Yeah, I know.
that
Yes,
only
we know
has
very
4 airplanes,
Yeah.
and that needs to have more than 30.
And a strategic cooperation with
With
Etihad, I
Etihad,
think,
yeah.
John mentioned.
We opening 2 new airlines, one
Yeah.
in Yerevan in Armenia, and one in Pakistan.
Mhm.
Pakistan has 200 million people.
As soon as they start to travel a lot,
Their
then it will be
their
big
domestic
success.
market in itself is
Yeah,
big,
yeah.
and in the aviation industry is pretty small. Our Moroccan hub needs growth, our Egyptian hub needs a growth, and so I think we currently gone to the market to get 12 airplanes as a lease to close the gap because
Yeah.
we're really short, and we believe that the ongoing market growth will need that and more. So Athens has picked up very well.
It's a very good market.
in
It's a
Europe.
very
Yes,
efficient
it
market.
is, and I think it could be very much on the radar.
Good. That's good to hear. That's very good to hear. Of course. Shaz Athens, yes. Yeah. In 2009. In 2009, yeah. Okay, so I got what I wanted. That's good. That's good. Thank you. Now, a question for you, Mr. Nane. First of all, congratulations, sir, on your appointment as the chair of the IATA Board of Governors recently. Now, commenting on your appointment, you have stated, we will overcome these challenging times by joining our forces together. So could you elaborate more? What will be your priorities for a speedy recovery in our industry? And how can airports, airlines, and all other stakeholders work closer together for a better future in aviation?
As I told you about the
You have
sustainability
mentioned
side,
that, yeah.
airlines are not by themselves can operate the business. We need the airports. We need the OEM manufacturers, engine manufacturers. When we go abroad, besides the airports, we need the ground handling companies. So it's a fuel service providers,
Of course.
catering providers, cleaning providers. So it's a joint effort. If we want to work in a harmony, like an orchestra, if everybody plays according to their own tone, what happens? We call it cacophony.
Exactly.
But if
Exactly.
everybody plays according to the maestro's direction, what happens? We clap it.
This is
And
true.
it will be
This is
a
true.
nice orchestra and nice presentation. So these forces must work together. If you do not know the requirements of the airport or the ground handling companies, or if they do not know our requirements, and if everybody does whatever right for themselves only, we polarize the industry. So that's why we have to come together. Not have to, we must come together. And we have to act together in order to recover from this pandemic. This pandemic was, have you ever saw the graphic by the, if I'm not wrong, it was the ICAO's graphic in 2021's report about 2020. They put down, since 1945, all of the global crisis and how it's affected the airline industry. So even the Korean War, Vietnamese War, the fuel crisis in 73, 9/11, 2008 crisis, either it was flat or a little bit down. But when we come to the 2020 pandemic, it was a huge goes down.
Yeah.
Huge cutting edge. So if we want to get out of this, we have to work together, understand each other together. Else, who's going to get lost?
All of
All
us.
the industry.
Yeah, true.
All the industry, and moreover, our passengers. So this is what I would like to highlight in that context. And I believe at heart that it has to be in unity. We have to understand each other, and we have to learn how to compromise each other.
This is true.
If we insist
true.
that I'm right, I have to survive, no. We have to compromise together in order to expand the cake. If we do not expand the cake, it will be really big issue for all of us.
So it's about cooperation, synergies, concerted actions
Everything.
among all the stakeholders, let's say,
For
the whole
sustainability of the
chain.
industry.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Samsunlu, for the Istanbul Grand Airport. In 2021, Istanbul Grand Airport was presented with the Accessible Airport Award by the ACI Europe in association with the European Disability Forum. The airport was praised by the judges for the innovative solutions in this area. So can you tell us, sir, a little bit more about them, as well as elaborate on how Istanbul Grand Airport has embraced innovation in your everyday operations?
I will share a personal fact about this issue. I have an autistic child in my family.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I'm very sensitive about the issues of people with restricted mobility or people with various disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are hidden, some of them are visible. And from the first day of my employment at IGA, when we were planning for the operation, I put a very special emphasis on what to do to these people with a lot of issues.
Yeah.
To transport, to transport in the country or via Istanbul to a final destination. And I always relay the message to my people saying that they are not different, and in fact they are privileged, because we need to be helping them to access to the facility, and at the same time we should also provide them independence in finding their ways around, because they are frustrated and sick of getting support or shoulder from regular people like us. They want to be acting independently inside the terminal. They want to be going to the bridges themselves. They want to find their way without getting any hand or any kind of third person inside the terminal. And with this goal, we added a lot of let's say options or a lot of products.
A lot of solutions, I would say, for
also
these.
the solutions in Istanbul. Some of them are, and the target is simple. We have to provide enough wayfinding, and we have to provide enough information via different sources.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, you need to use technology, which is obvious, and you should also educate your people who is going to be using, who is going to be learning how to talk with the people with the disabilities, or how to support them in finding their way around big terminal like in Istanbul. And on top of that, for instance, an autistic child is already quite bothered with the crowd.
Yeah, with the
Okay,
crowd
you
and
need
the
to provide
sound
them
and the noises.
some privacy, and to do that, we put 2 special rooms on the land side and 2 special rooms on the air side. One for domestic part of the airport, and the other one is international part of the airport. And we have over 100 people in the team who are able to use the sign language.
Mm-hmm.
We have the application which is going to be, supported with the voice system, so they can really with the augmented reality they can find their way in the airport by just listening to that, taking the directions. And why we are doing this is simply because their life is already very restricted, and the families are already, killing themselves to support these people with disabilities. And they also have the right to travel, not only in Turkey, but also
Everywhere.
Internationally.
Everywhere.
And we are seeing people with disabilities coming from United States and going to Pakistan. Imagine the problems the family is dealing from the first minute of trip.
Mm-hmm.
And what you need to do is basically give them a hand, and so they will take breaks during the travel, and so these people will also be able to go and meet with their relatives, and also go and see the places that we also like to see as a leisure. Therefore, that's a special area for IGA, and going forward we will continue adding more on this. And as long as I'm here, meaning in the company, I will also seek for better options, better solutions for the people with disabilities to travel and have independence while they are using the facility.
Thank you. So it's technology, infrastructure, training of personnel.
Very key.
Yeah.
And
key.
cooperation with airlines.
Of course.
And
absolutely.
cooperation with airlines.
Thank you. Thank
We
you
are,
very
we are
much.
encouraging all airlines to pass
cooperate,
us
to
the
train
names,
the personnel.
name of the, of the passengers with disability, or name of the passengers with PRM.
Okay. Thank you, thank you. And last but not least, Dr. Paraschis, we have been discussing a little bit about environment sustainability. Now, I happen to know that back in December 2019, Athens International Airport announced its highly ambitious yet feasible Route 2025 initiative, aiming at net zero carbon emissions up to 2025. And I happen also to know that despite the pandemic, this investment plan was not ceased, it continued. So can you tell us a little bit more about Route 2025 as well as about sustainability and environmental strategy of Athens International Airport?
Yeah, thank you. Just to link it a bit to the previous topic about the human factor, our labor force, and also our ability to provide the service and to help also people with disabilities going through our facilities or through our airplanes. I think this was the best proof, and congratulations. I think we have been through a program trying to train our people at the different stages of the travel through the terminal, being it information, being it terminal assistance, being it security, how to treat this type of people. And it needs, I mean, people with autism, you said it, I mean, it's the stress factor being in a crowded environment. So I think it will take time before this can be replaced by robotics.
Absolutely, yes,
and
yes,
therefore
yes.
we are a people's business. We are, it also relates, for example, when we talk to airports, something very different, very much more banal, but the question about, you know, replacing physical retail at airports through digital options.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
This changes completely the strengths of this industry, and if you replace impulse buying through digital buying, then you expose yourself to something which is you're only going to lose. So coming back to the sustainability point, yes, I think at the very early stage we have realized that the question of sustainability and energy is not an issue of to ensure a license to grow. It will be the license to operate, and we don't want to be a shrinking industry. As many, there are pressures in this direction, and we said, we need to move ahead of things. You mentioned it, the commitment to be net zero by 2050 is a nice statement, but unless you have very tangible, measurable interim steps, then it's obviously something which is a bit empty. And then we looked at options and whether we could also do something in the energy sector, at the same time convert it to a reasonable business case. And we had gained the experience because we have built an 8 megawatt photovoltaic park back in 2011, which accounts for about 20% of our energy airport company energy consumption, or about 10% of the total airport consumption. And we said, how can we have the space, and how can we grow this and become truly zero carbon when it comes to electricity, at least, which accounts for about 91% of our consumption and CO2 production. And we committed to do that. It is an ambitious trip. We have embarked. Of course, there's been. You said that the commitment was made back in 2019. Mm-hmm. Then COVID came. That was November 19. COVID came, and unfortunately, it did not only make things more difficult for us in terms of revenue, cash, ability to invest, but also it decelerated the technology in the sector. So we are now in the process of Doing the first phase, we would need to build a photovoltaic of about 55 megawatts. We do the first phase now of 16, and the second one would require also the ability to store energy in respective battery facilities. There, the technology is not moving as quickly as we would like it, but we are confident that we will get there before 25. So we are moving at a fast pace, not to become net zero, but become truly zero.
Truly zero, truly zero.
We will
yes,
not
yes,
offset
yes.
at
Yes.
all with the network.
No offsets.
We are currently carbon neutral, but then we will be not even offsetting with the grid. We will produce and store and consume at the airport. And I hope that we will be able to deliver in time. We are also pressing the Greek government to come up with a regulatory framework for the storage of energy in batteries, which is a challenging one. But I think, we are optimistic. As I said, we will now soon we move into the implementation of the first phase, which is 16, and then we have another 40 megawatts we would need to put in place.
So we hope that this will be an additional reason to celebrate in 2025, hopefully. Now, the last question for today. It's the last one, so I think I will start with Mr. Adelali. I think during all this unprecedented crisis, we have quoted Sir Winston Churchill a lot. He used to say back in at the end, let's say, of the Second World War, never let a good crisis go to waste. He's credited with saying that. So, of course, this phrase causes all of us to look for a silver lining during the crisis and seek opportunities where they might not have not been before. But at the same time, in the case of aviation, it raises the question, have we let this good crisis go to waste? Have we not? If not, what are the lessons learned? So, Mr. Ali. Challenging question.
It is. No, I think we all. It's all about what happens next.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the industry or the airlines, surprisingly, probably pre the pandemic, it was more fragile than after the pandemic. Albeit there are a lot of debts and all that sort of thing, but everybody saw the true risk and the threat ahead back in 2020, and everybody performed extremely well in getting together within each airline.
Mm-hmm.
And they found a solution at the time that there was zero money almost coming into the airlines. So there was a lot of good thing happened. And it happened because in an airline is I remember a long time ago telling somebody, the problem with the airline, the bigger you get, is like a bad table which has got lots of things in it. The best way to really change is take everything off and then start over. But in our business, if you take it off, you'll never start again, right? Now, the 2 years has given us an opportunity to probably take most of the thing off the table and re-look at it and bring it back. I think, for me, that is the learning. Those who would succeed is now that becomes integral part of their normal work practice.
Mm-hmm. To incorporate it.
To incorporate, yeah. And
practices.
those who wouldn't, is as soon as the cash starts coming in and business comes back to normality, they go back into what I described, running an airline, not running a business.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So have we let this good crisis go to waste? Have we not?
Of course not, especially on the financials, that the costs that we used to reduce will be continuing. What are those costs, for example? What will be continuing in our life from now on? First of all, traveling for international purposes. If it is not must, we're not going to travel because we find out technology of online, Zoom, WebEx, Global Meet, Teams. This is my third international travel in the last 2.5 years. So instead of going just for a meeting on the Zoom, it's much cost effective.
Yeah.
Second, home office. Normally we used to give 1 day per month home office. Currently we have 2 days office for the headquarters only and 3 days home office. But after the normalization, we're planning to give 2 days per week home office. So we're going to reduce the office square meters. All of these are certain cost issues for us, which we're going to reduce. But on the socialization side and getting used to each other within the department and among the departments, we make certain costs. For example, we give certain allowances for each department in order to socialize internally.
Okay.
Previously, they were doing this during the cafeteria or the coffee breaks or the cigarette breaks, or when they are coming, we provide in Turkey services to come. So company-wise, it's a kind of socialization issues. None of them are there. So how they're going to socialize? Even within the department, we give them allowances. According to that, either they can do the breakfast, lunch, or
So
the
you incentivize.
dinner. Yeah,
incentivize
we
them.
incentivize.
Yes.
Second, we have social clubs. Those social clubs reactivated. For example, today they started a yoga class from different departments. 2 different yoga teachers. One of them is for Kundalini yoga. The other one is Hatha yoga, something like that.
Nice.
Is coming to our
Very
office.
nice.
People are gathering and they're taking lessons. So these are not from the same departments, from different departments. They are coming together for the socialization. So we inherited all of the, as a low cost, all of the gained cost-effective side. Cost reductions will stay.
Yeah.
But we used to have certain additional costs in order to socialize and unite our employees, which is very crucial for us, in a way, not to prevent, but to push the brake for the great migration.
Thank you. What are the lessons learned?
I'm originally a corporate finance guy. I never really pay so much attention on the force majeure clauses. I mean, this crisis showed, definitely proven that we need to be very careful what the force majeure is. Something which is not foreseen hit the industry. Therefore, the first my first takeaway is that better risk management going forward, and anything even small emerging somewhere in the world should be really paid attention. Second, people, employees. We couldn't go through this crisis without them, and I think everywhere in the sector, airlines, ground handlers, airports, we owe a lot to them. In this crisis, they manage the customers, they manage the processes with limited numbers on the ground, and more importantly, all of us, accepted certain cuts in our compensation for months, and that's we were able to do that without really harming the loyalty among them. So the team building is so key, and I agree. We cannot bring everything to a digital level. It's still very much human business, and in this business, people don't want to be using the apps to do things at the airport. They want to be touching people. They want to be enjoying the different cultures while they are with us. And therefore, I think the most important takeaway that I will take is that we have to pay more attention to the well-being of our employees. We have to be supporting the facilities with better sanitation, hygiene, and cleaning. We should not really, go back to old standards of cleaning or hygiene, saying that the pandemic is over. I think it should stay in our business models. And of course, all of us, I think the industry is very strong now because we became more agile, more adaptive, and definitely more effective.
Thank you. So it's about harnessing automation and technology for a human future that works. I think that's the... And last but not least, Dr. Paraschis.
Well, I think it has been said for our generations that have moved and have into business and life after the Second World War, we were always used to that things will move this way with very, very minor disruptions. I think it has taught us that we are not maybe and thankfully not exposed to this type of crisis that previous generations were exposed to, but that definitely we are not fully protected from this type of major events of lasting duration and major disruptions. But I think the disruptive impact. But one thing that if I would compare this crisis with the previous one, which was the global financial crisis, and link it to sustainability, I think, and also this is a lesson learned, I think, for our industry, the sustainability threats and the climate change and all that was very much there during the previous decade, actually the 2000s, up until the end of 2010. Then the crisis came and suddenly things shifted towards macroeconomic growth and employment. And that gave us almost 10 years where we could escape from that, sort of also as an industry, from that sort of threat of climate change, sustainability pressures, emission trading schemes, emission reduction, all of that. And I think what we learned from this crisis, you cannot permanently escape, and it's you need to face things, and you need to get better. Otherwise, I think the threat is there, and you cannot hide behind the bush.
You need to face things, you need to get constantly better, and with this, I would like to thank you very much. Gentlemen, I think a warm round of applause is due for our top leaders. Thank you very much. It has been an honor. Thank you. Thank you. So thank you, and I think we are on time, and Professor Papatheodorou will have a concluding remarks. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, I think we all thoroughly enjoyed this very insightful discussion by four leading personalities in the transport sector, Mr. Adel Ali from Air Arabia, Mr. Mehmet Nane from Pegasus Airlines, Dr. Yannis Paraskis from Athens International Airport, and Mr. Kadri Samsoglu from IGA Istanbul Airport. I would like also to thank Ms. Papadopoulou for a very inspiring and thoughtful moderation. What I'm going to do now is to give some concluding remarks, which is obviously quite difficult given the overload of information we had. And during the discussion, I've been thinking about my son. My son is 10 years old, and one of his very favorite games is snakes and ladders. And when we play that game, I always tell him, okay, do think about ladders and be happy when you go up, but don't cry when you get the snakes. But in retrospect, one of the big problems we had is that it's exactly this, complacency, and that has been mentioned quite a lot. We keep admiring the ladders, but we keep forgetting the snakes. The air transport sector is full of fragile beauties. And the problem is that in many cases we remember the beauties, we tend to forget fragility. Back in 2019, IATA published a report that the best you could do from the net profit per passenger was to buy a Big Mac in Switzerland. And that was in 2019 when we all mentioned how glorious the future would look like. Now, 2 years or 3 years down the line, things are very different. It's very, very important to understand that in this new world where the snakes of COVID-19 have beaten us, if not eaten us, it's quite important to develop resilience from a new point of view. Very interesting things were mentioned, like the importance to reduce costs at different levels, and not standard operational costs, but things including buildings. So if we move to a new reality where people can work remotely or from their homes, perhaps we might need fewer buildings, we might need less space in our buildings. But on the other hand, we do need to remember that we're talking about a people's business. We need to create new space for a socialization of employees, and work-life balance was also mentioned in many cases. So on the one hand, we need to reduce costs. On the other hand, we do need to acknowledge potential new sources of investment that we should make, and especially in terms of people. Cash is king also, very, very important because of the pandemic, and in spite of all the different subsidies and state aid, the ones that are going to thrive in the future are those that manage to secure a good cash position in before the pandemic, and that would allow them also to build capacity in the years to come. Of course, we need to consider ESG, environmental sustainability, social sustainability, and governments, both internal and external, in terms of the different stakeholders. In this context, it's very important for the different suppliers to come together. In the past, we typically talked about the love and hate relationship between airlines and airports. Obviously, supply chain disruption, supply chain conflict will still exist, but I think that we're now moving more towards exploiting different synergies, realizing the ability for orchestrated efforts, realizing the ability to become more adaptive and more flexible in the new environment. In this context, we will now have to consider new challenges as well. A lot was mentioned about the environment in terms of sustainable aviation fuel, whether the infrastructure is there or not, what may happen in terms of synthetic fuel as well. The hubbing versus dehubbing debate is still on. During the pandemic, we saw a bit of dehubbing as a result of people being more interested in direct flights, but of course we may end up having more of long-range, narrow-body aircraft that would allow dehubbing, but at the same time, hubbing does remain of great importance. And then we moved more into people, and we should never forget that air transport is the people's business. We've talked about remote working where possible, but as I said before, very, very important to keep the right work-life balance. We've talked about the new needs of customers. More personalization of services, more customization of services is important. At the same time, it's also of great, or I would say of crucial significance to acknowledge the special needs of people facing difficulties, whether these are more difficulties related to mobility or mental difficulties or any other sort of problems that people may face. And it's not only a matter of democratizing travel, it's a more matter of human respect, of making all these people feeling independent and able to navigate in a seamless manner through the whole journey experience. Hygiene and sanitization are obviously quite important, and I'm sure that they're here to stay, just as advanced security measures were introduced since September 11 in 2001, and as we all know, they are still in place. And at the same time, I think we should also focus on reskilling and upskilling. That's quite important. People working throughout the transport sector, I think they should be more educated in order to face all these different challenges. Apart from that, once again, all speakers did mention the need for further partnerships, the need to move forwards. And in conclusion, I think that we're gradually moving into a new normality. We all hope that we will be able to climb new ladders very soon. But I think that we're now all fully aware of the different snakes that exist. And in this context, I think education can play a leading role. We should all be educated at different levels. And just as a concluding note, I would like to happily announce that a few months ago, Hermes, Air Transport Organization, signed an MOU with my university, the University of the Aegean, about some new educational initiatives, especially at postgraduate level, and nice things will be announced soon. So thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for such an insightful discussion. Kostas.
And in a few seconds, we'll start the award ceremony. Then we'll ask you to change the setup. Then I will ask Jeff Poole to join here and Peter Elbers. Well, then we can switch the seats. Welcome to the 2022 Air Transport Awards. This year, we celebrate the 10th anniversary. Some of you were in the first gathering in Megaron Concert Hall. Andreas was the chair. Yannis Paraschis was the first winner for Leader of the Year. And I'm pleased that all these years, we recognize the leaders, companies, and organizations that contributed to the development of air transport. Always, our target was to contribute to the evolution of aviation and of course, to be combined with a landmark place that we held the awards. Iconic places that we conduct our award ceremonies: Siragan Palace in Istanbul, Ariana Museum in Geneva, the Mozart House in Salzburg, and last but not least, also Burj Al Arab in Dubai. Of course, today we are here in our home, in our true residence, and that we welcome you with my family. And this year, our home celebrates its 90th anniversary. Then, we are close to Calais, but not so close. I made the research, and I saw that over these 10 years, before today's winners, we gave 131 awards in total. And I'm pleased that today we have 2 award winners, so Leader of the Year, Jeff Poole, and as already mentioned, Yannis Paraschis. I would like now to ask Alexis Maras, who is the editor of ATN, to present the first group of awards, the ATN Awards. Alexis, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It was a great pleasure that I joined here today to present the new era, Building the Future of Air Transport Awards on behalf of ATN Air Transport News. This is the 10th year the awards are presented, and this event remains one of the most remarkable in its field, recognizing the people in our industry whose prominent profile and professional work has had a truly outstanding impact in the community of aviation. As the editor of ATN, I can tell you that the nominees this year were some of the most noteworthy, hardworking, and compassionate people I had the pleasure of knowing. People that stood out of their achievements and remarkable career in the aviation sector. Over the years of their work in the aviation industry, they have gone on to become an example for their work and immeasurable contribution. ATN last November celebrated the 15th anniversary thanks to 63,000 plus subscribers, has managed to become a leader in the aviation business-to-business media. In 2020, ATN hosted the only major on-site physical air transport event after the start of COVID-19, an event honored with the presence of the President of the ICAO Council. Now, more than ever, the need for accurate and reliable information and news is more necessary and critical in order to take the right decisions at the right time. ATN will continue to deliver that we have been doing all these years. I'm happy to present the first award. It's the individual award and goes to Yannis Paraskis. Yannis is the Chief Executive Officer of the Athens International Airport since 2007. He served as AIA's Deputy CEO from 2001 to 2007. He joined AIA following an international career in academia and strategic management consulting with A.T. Kearney and Deloitte. Currently, he is the chairman of the board of Athens Airport Fuel Pipeline Company SA and the council of the ACI Fund and ACI-linked entity, which provides professional training and support to airports in developing nations. He participates in several boards and councils of companies, academic institutions, and trade associations in Greece and abroad. Following a series of international distinctions and after 20 years of personal contribution to the aviation industry, having served as chairman of ACI Europe 2007 until 2009 and ACI World 2011 until 2013, he was honored in October 2015 with the first CAPA Airport Chief Executive of the Year award. Yannis holds MC in Industrial Engineering and PhD in Operation Research from the University of Hamburg. Today, we're here to honor Yannis Paraskis for all of these efforts. Please join me in welcoming here with us.
I think you have heard enough of me today, so I don't want to bother you any longer. Just to say two things. I don't think there are individual awards, or I don't like individual awards, because I think we are the results for which we are receiving those is a collective effort, and particularly when it comes to airports, it's all a community. Not even the airport company can deliver unless a whole community, in our case of 300 entities, governmental entities, private entities, airlines, and everybody else who contributes to this effort, and this goes to them. I'd like also, of course, to extend a special thanks to our people at Athens Airport, our company, and who have gone through difficult times the last 2 years, and maybe this award comes timely to them. And I also don't like individual awards, because they mean that you have done enough in your life, so you are getting older and older. So this is something that reminds us of aging. So thank you very much, the jury of this award, and Kostas Iatrou, and for all his initiatives with Air Transport News and this type of, I think it's the second time you said it after 10 years, so thank you again very much.
the second award. It's a corporate award and goes to Pegasus Airlines. On 1st of November 2005, Pegasus Airlines set out with the belief that everyone has the right to fly and took a step towards transformation aviation in Turkey. The airline was the first to introduce the low-cost airline model in Turkey. In 2012, Pegasus made the single largest event aircraft order in Turkish civil aviation history at the time, for 100 Airbus A320neo and A321neo, including 25 options. The delivery of the CFM LEAP series engines powered Airbus 320neo was another first, making Pegasus the first airline in the world to use CFM's new generation environmentally friendly engines. In 2016, Pegasus became the first airline in the world to join the UN's Women's Empowered Priceless platform. In 2019, the airline was among the first airlines in the world to sign IATA's voluntary initiative by 2025. In 2018, Pegasus launched the Digital Transformation Program and implemented many projects. In 2021, Pegasus was the first airline in Turkey to trial IATA's Travel Passion Pass application. The airline joined the world's leading airlines in the commitment to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050 in accordance with IATA's resolution. Carrying its guests to 122 destinations, Turkey's digital airline Pegasus continued to work determinedly towards its goal to becoming the greenest airline in Turkey and its region. Today, we are here to honor Mehmet Nane for all these efforts. Please join welcoming here with us.
Aviation is a teamwork, so I accept this on behalf of our 6,000 employees and moreover the 20 million passengers we carried last year. So thank you for all, and this is a good appreciation, and this is giving us encouragement to do something more and for better. Thank you.
Well, the last but not least, it's the International Organization Award. Goes to European Commission. Unfortunately, we don't have the representative from the European Commission DG Move today, but Henrik Holloley, Director General for Mobility and Transport, European Commission, said, "It is a real pleasure to accept this year's ATN International Organization Award on behalf of the European Commission and especially on behalf of my colleagues in DG Move. We continue to face extremely challenging times, and we all hope that the depth of the crisis is behind us. Looking ahead, the recovery will be used to further accelerate the green and digital transition for the European aviation sector. The European Commission and DG Move will continue to support these efforts." Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexis. That concludes the first part of the awards, and then we move to the corporate awards. We have three categories. We reintroduced this year the Alliance of the Year award. As you can understand, it was quite difficult to make a selection the last 2 years due to COVID and what we were facing. I'm pleased to announce that this year award goes to Star Alliance, and we have Jeffrey Goh, the CEO of Star Alliance, will accept the award. This year award, as I said, will go to Star Alliance for its unwavering commitment to make flight travel a truly customer-friendly experience on all levels and phases by adopting innovation, sustainability, and working to provide constantly improving digital, easy-to-use services. Star Alliance members have once more proven their commitment to well-being of the passenger by adopting the highest Diamond Health Safety level of Apex Health standards. Please, Jeffrey.
Well, good evening all, and thank you. It's an honor to be here to receive yet again, consecutively, since this award was incepted some many years ago. And we are really proud to be the only alliance that has been receiving this award since its inception. But that goes to show that we have not rested on our laurels. I heard conversations earlier about complacency. It is one thing that is not in our DNA, and hence, consecutively, we've received this award. But of course, it's a recognition, as many of you have already said, of the team, of my organization, but also of the 400,000 employees across the Star Alliance network who go out of their way day to day to make sure that customers are well looked after. And again, that is a testimony not only of the team's work, but also of our customer-centric focus. So thank you very much again to ATN for this award. Thank you.
And we move now to the Airport of the Year award. And this year, as last year, the winner is IGA Istanbul Airport. The Istanbul Airport managed very well the crisis, and we heard earlier in the panel discussion not only about crisis but also helping people with disabilities. That was recognized also by ACI Europe, but also there was the first to accredit the ACI health accreditation and to re-accredit it, and of course was in the top of traffic results in Europe over the last year. Then we made this selection based on these criteria. And I would like to ask Kadri Samsonlu, the CEO of Istanbul Airport, to accept the award on behalf of his company.
Well, receiving an award is always a great motivation to do things better going forward. Receiving it 2 years in a row is also quite challenging because hopefully we will be receiving next year as well. To do that, we should really carry out a lot and do a lot of better things at the airport. But this is given to me, but I'm taking this on behalf of thousands of people working in our ecosystems. Some of them I know, most of them I don't know. Therefore, these awards are a recognition of the success, and hopefully we will deliver good achievements to the sector in Turkey and also globally. Thank you.
And the last award for this category is the Airline of the Year award. That was a really tough decision, still traffic are low, then using the coefficient parameter based on traffic will not work out. Then we thought that we need to see other parameters in order to take this decision. We made the selection in Air Arabia. It's the winner for this year. And the Air Arabia, I think also Adele will say that we'll have a really positive year for 2021. Had partnership and expanded. They had cooperation also with Armenia. And we heard again in the panel with expansion, the fleet expansion with the narrow bodies. Then, based on this criteria, we made the choice for Air Arabia, the second only low cost to get this award over these years. And I will ask Adel Ali, a very good friend and CEO of Air Arabia, to accept the award on behalf of his company.
Thank you. Right, I guess thank you very much to start with, and always good to get in difficult times of the last couple of years to get an award. Not many awards has been going around. Also, I think it's 10 years ago I got one, so thank you. A lot of people probably don't know much about Air Arabia and what happens. We sort of operate in a multiple cultures. Dealing with one regulator is difficult. We deal with about so many, because everywhere we go, you got to have a separate AOC. And most of these places, you're not even welcomed, because probably, we call ourselves a budget airline because they believe low cost is a bad thing, right? And what matters to us is, as I said, manage your airline as a business, and bottom line profitability is as important as the safety of an airline. We make money to spend to keep surviving and safe. And again, as we said, all those people, and no different than what it says, all the staff that we have that achieve such things. So great to be recognized, and I'm sure they'll be very happy to know that. Thank you.
And now we move to the individual awards. And I always say that this industry exists thanks to individuals that, of course, collectively built really a great industry, a unique industry in the world. The first award is the Hermes Award, that is in cooperation with our organization, with Hermes Air Transport Organization. And I will ask our president, Jeff Poole, to present the award to the winner.
Thank you, Kostas, and good evening, I guess, by now, to everybody. Hermes, as you know, is an organization of notable executives in the air transport industry, and because of that, we focus most of our activities on the people aspects of air transport. So the Hermes Award is for an individual who has made a significant personal contribution to air transport in the last year. And we've heard a lot today, I think, about the interconnectivity and interdependence of the different parts of the industry and different sectors. And I think that's very true of travel and tourism and aviation. Aviation being the backbone for travel and tourism providing much of the market for aviation, obviously. So it's very appropriate that the Hermes Award this year goes to somebody outside of the air transport industry and actually in travel and tourism. And for the rest of my comments to make any sense whatsoever, I have to announce to you now that the Hermes Award this year will be presented to Harry Theoharis, the former Minister of Tourism here in Greece. Now, being a Minister of Tourism is never an easy job, but 2 years ago it became immensely more challenging and complex with the onset of the pandemic. Harry Theoharis was an individual who really stepped up to that challenge, became an outstanding advocate for what I think can be called a common sense approach to maintaining public health and safety, but keeping borders open and allowing travel and tourism to continue as much as was possible in the circumstances. And as a result of that, quite frankly, Greece became a best practice example that many associations, such as World Travel and Tourism Council, where I was working, used, and great credit to Greece for that. But Harry was very quickly aware that no country can stand on its own in these sort of circumstances, and so became guess what, a global advocate for that same common sense approach, and may I say, a highly respected speaker and representative in many international fora. I would very much like to now present the award to Harry. He is no longer with us as a Minister of Tourism, but I believe that travel and tourism and air transport will always remain very deeply embedded in his heart. So this award is not just made in recognition of his contribution, but also with heartfelt thanks from the air transport sector. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, it's a cliche, and everybody before me said that this is not an individual award, it's an award of many, many people that worked. The peculiarity in this case is that I don't know most of them. I'm not lucky as Mehmet to know each and every one of his 6,000 employees, or Yanis to know his thousands of people in the airport of Athens. It's not just the 700 people in the Ministry of Tourism. It's not just the 300 odd people in the Tourism Board, GNTO of Greece, but it is Mehmet's people, it is Yanis's people, it is the airline people, the hoteliers and their employees, and everybody else that worked together and embraced, even the commission that was awarded before, because they embraced our idea of the Digital Green Pass, the basis of the European open skies approach throughout this pandemic. Unfortunately, this common sense approach is not shared by every region. That's why you have this patchy climate even today. We have unnecessarily, in my view, controls. So I'm taking this award on behalf of each and every one of you, of your employees and everyone, because an international business needs international cooperation, and this was the only way that we managed to achieve that. That's why Europe was the most successful in terms of the recovery region in the world, in terms of tourism, and Greece was a big success within Europe as well. I'm also taking this award and making my wife unhappy, because when she heard I'm taking an Hermes award, she thought it was a leather bag or something. And, but, you know, you can have everything. Thank you.
And now we move to the last two awards, that all of the three are very important. And first, we start with the Katerina and George Iatrou Lifetime Achievement Award. This is very sentimental for me and my family. And as I said earlier today, we are here at home where my father was born and spent his life. And we give this award as a recognition to someone who is a leader, and not only for a year, but for the whole career. And over these years, we managed to give this award to personalities. And we have also Tassos Kokinos that was awarded a couple of years ago here. And but this year also is a very unique case, because there's not only a person that deserves it. I can say it's a guru in aviation. He's a true aviator. He has been in aviation all his life, in different roles, in different hats. That is not easy, moving from IATA, from Airbus, from BAE Systems to Kanzo and WTTC. That means it's a full career. And of course, lastly is the president of Hermes Air Transport Organization. Then you can understand to who I'm talking. It's Jeff Poole, is the president of Hermes, that this year we give him the Lifetime Award, and he becomes the first person to have both awards. That means the Lifetime and the Leader of the Year. Then Jeff, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. As was said earlier, it's great to be receiving awards as opposed to giving them. Thank you, Kostas. A Lifetime Achievement Award is, I think, very special and unique, and for me it comes at an appropriate time. Not because it's the end of my lifetime, but because it's the end of my working career. As many of you know, I ceased professional working at the end of March, and I'm enjoying a completely new role, busier than ever on personal and family matters. I've been blessed with a career of almost 50 years, I hasten to add, across the aerospace and aviation industries in different roles. And I've been involved in some amazing projects, worked for some great organizations, traveled the world, had some mind-boggling experiences, and I guess met some wonderful people. As Kostas mentioned, this particular award is also special and unique because it is the Katerina and George Iatru Award in honour of Kostas's parents. I was very honoured and privileged to know Kostas's mother, Katerina, and she is, or was, one of the wonderful people that I referred to earlier. So Kostas, I know that this award is special and means a lot to you. Let me assure you it's very special and means a lot to me too. Thank you, my friend.
And now we move to the last award of the evening. Always the Leader of the Year award, we make a selection between people of organization and airlines and airports. Over the last years before today award ceremony, we deliver this award to 2 airline CEOs, 2 airport CEOs, 2 secretaries of ICAO, 1 president of ICAO, 1 director general of European Commission, and 2 other organizations, DG of CANSO and DG of ACI. And it's turned again after a gap of 6 years to deliver this award to an airline leader. And I'm pleased to deliver this award to Peter Elbers. And we'll ask you to listen a little bit his CV because really it's quite inspiring. It will not take too long. Peter Elbers aspires to make KLM Europe's most customer-centric, sustainable and efficient premium network carrier. His leadership style is characterized by the conviction that the management of a company requires a continuous balancing between people, planet, and prosperity. He's an airline industry veteran with 30 years of aviation experience. It is his responsibility to develop and execute KLM overall strategy and performance. He is also responsible for external affairs as well as for the further developing and enhancing alliances and partnerships. Since he took up the office as the president and CEO of KLM in 2014, he led the company throughout an intensive transformation. Peter, together with the executive team, defined KLM's ambition and successfully executed the strategy throughout the annual flight plan, thereby building a financially healthy firm with a high-performance organization, satisfied customers, and motivated staff. In 2019, this resulted in a record turnover of 11 billion euros. During that same year, KLM, as we already heard from Peter, celebrated 100th anniversary. Under his leadership, KLM is proud of its history, committed to the future. As one of the largest employers in Canada, in Netherlands, Mark, KLM has a significant societal role. Starting in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic proved to be the greatest challenge in the history of aviation. Peter navigates KLM throughout these turbulent times, and it's shifting the paradigm to go from only more to better, redefining how to build a better company. In addition to the daily crisis management, he set a new strategic horizon for KLM centered on 3 cornerstones. First, it remains of paramount importance to run a great airline for KLM customers. Second, set the ambition to accelerate KLM's sustainability efforts to become a net positive company. And thirdly, KLM to create technological advancement as an integral part of its strategy. Peter started his career with KLM in '92 on the platform as manager, aircraft loading, followed by several executive positions for KLM in Netherlands, Italy, Greece, and Japan, before he took office as the Chief Operating Officer in 2011. Next to his current role at KLM and as an executive of Air France KLM Group, he is a member of the Board of Governors of IATA. In addition, he has a leading role in the Dutch business world as board member of VNO-NCW. Peter Elbers is graduated from Open University in Amsterdam with an MBA in the Academy of Venlo. Furthermore, he has completed executive programs in different places around the globe. He's married with Marjolein and have three wonderful kids. And convinced that a healthy mind equals a healthy body, he runs regularly to stay fit. His personal interests cover history and culture. Please welcome Peter Elbers. Sorry for the mistake. Don't forget my company and the Hermes is based in Canada. That it's quite often used.
Yeah. Thank you, thanks Kostas for the kind words and of course the recognition and the award. Yeah, I guess the Netherlands is probably one of the smallest countries in the world, whereas Canada, I think, is the second largest. So I can imagine why you mix up these two countries. No, it's really it's very meaningful. 2021 has been a crazy year, as we just described, and as a company we got quite a few awards actually during 21. One of them being the Apex World Class Awards, of which I believe only 6 airlines in the world were recognized with that, and the other one was on safety, which is I think is the basis and the foundation of what we do as an airline. So this one really ties to that for the company and the people who do the great work, and I think. Yanis is the first one receiving the reward. Kindly made it clear to everyone, make sure that you don't like individual awards. So I guess all the other recipients after Yanis basically confirmed that image. But this is very meaningful, and indeed after 30 years at KLM, it's really nice to get this leadership award, and it just underlines what a fantastic business we're in. And actually I'm very glad being here today, where you can see that travel and listening to each other and international exposure and the conversation here which took place, the great summary we got from Andreas, it was really very meaningful and very insightful, and taking that back. So for me it's just another confirmation that this is probably the best industry to work in, with big challenges ahead, but with great people working there. So once again, thank you very much for that recognition, and we look forward, as we said, to a much better 2022. And I will say to Schiphol Airport that Istanbul is for the 2nd year in a row, so they have to catch up. And I'll say to SkyTeam the very same. And being a SkyTeam member, I think also here we have some competition to catch up. So thank you for that.
And here it concludes the award ceremony. I would like to thank all of you for your participation, and also I would like to thank our sponsor for today's symposium, Athens International Airport, and Bros and Engine Lease Finance that supported this event, and of course the supporting organization, Hellenic Aviation Society, with that we work together in order to make it happen. As Peter said, it's nice to move and meet people, and this is our target. Even during the pandemic, we continue to do the award ceremonies physical, and we have to demonstrate to everyone that we travel, and then we need to invite our customers, the passenger, to fly with us. And with this, I leave you, and I would like to thank you once again for being tonight and today here. Thank you. For the award winners, I would like to gather in order to take some family pictures.